Hey, welcome back. All right, take two. Had food in my teeth for the first one. Today we are baking. I got a request last season to do cheesecake. To me, cheesecake, the graham cracker crust is like my absolute favorite part of it. Do something a little bit different and play with the flavors of traditional cheesecake. A graham crumb cake, a cream cheese mousse, and some macerated blackberries on top. And I think it will all hit the notes of a cheesecake, but be like a little bit of a different experience, hopefully. Yeah, that's it. Let's get started. I've never made this today, so we're kind of freestyling, but I did look at some recipes for reference. I did a little bit of pre-measuring out of the ingredients just to save a little bit of time, but I'm definitely gonna put the ingredients somewhere. I don't know how this is framed in front of the camera, but if it's
either or.
This way, will they fit right? Will text fit right here?
Like it here.
All right. I'll put the recipe right here, all the wet and the dry ingredients just for reference, so you can screenshot it and then you'll have it. So this is all the dry ingredients, and I just whisk these all together separately. And you know what? We're gonna put a pinch of some fine sea salt in here. We'll make sure that this is really nice and mixed. The reason you mix everything separately in baking is like you're trying to mix everything as best as possible. When you're cooking and stuff, a lot of times you're like adding liquid and everything will just dissolve into liquid, so it'll mix really well. With baking, you don't have that insurance, so it's really important that you mix your dry separate than you mix your wet. If you throw everything in together, the probability that you're gonna have like a little clump of baking powder or a little clump of flour is pretty high. So that's why you just take the time to mix everything separately and make sure that this is all really, really well mixed before we even add it to our wet. I have my butter and my sugar. I got a little hand mixer thing. Shout out to Kimberly, this is hers. I've never used it before. Seems like the things fall out a lot, but baking 101, here we go. We're just gonna cream this together. So it'll mix together and you want it to start to get some air, a little bit of air into it. It'll just be like kind of pale and fluffy is like the word that the bakers use, but I'll show you what it looks like. I'm slowly increasing my speed. All right. Pale and fluffy, achieved. So now we're gonna add 2 eggs, and you just wanna add these one at a time and fully incorporate the egg before you add the next one. I'm gonna try and crack an egg with one hand. Okay, professional baker. All right, so before I add the flour and whatnot, I just wanna season this with a little bit of vanilla extract, you know, like a teaspoon or so. Maybe I don't hate baking, you know?
It's just the measuring, because you're not a measure person.
I hate measuring. I spilled a little bit of sugar before we started filming today, and it really fucked my head up, I'll be honest. I was mad. There was a moment where my phone was in my hand and I thought I should just throw my phone against the wall, you know? Okay, so we're gonna incorporate 3/4 cup of milk, and then we have our dry. We're gonna kind of add a little bit of each at a time and incorporate that. Normally with a cake, you really want to try and not overwork that flour. The dope thing about this cake is there's not much flour in this. You know, most of what we're using as flour is graham crumb. So it'll actually be harder to overwork your flour because there's so little in here. There's only about 1/2 cup. You got a little bit of like extra wiggle room, but still you just want to add a little bit of each in at a time. Maybe in like, you know, with this much, maybe like thirds. Just fully incorporate it, that's it. You don't want to like, you know, with the butter and stuff, it doesn't matter if you beat the hell out of it. But at this point, you just want to just fully incorporate it, add your next batch. Just fully incorporate it, add your next batch until everything's all mixed. I like parchment paper for baking. I know some people like foil, or some people like to just butter and flour the actual dish. I really like parchment because it's like guaranteed not to stick. What I did was I cut 2 pieces of parchment that are the size that I need. And then a little trick is just to crumple them up to make them a little bit more pliable. But parchment, it's like really stiff and hard to like push into your corners. You crumple it a little bit, it just makes it like a little bit more pliable. And then another trick is, in order to get it to stick, because you'll notice like it won't actually stick, right? Like it lifts up. So what you want to do is get a little bit of water and just enough to wet. And this will kind of act like a little bit of a glue. Take any excess out because you don't want to steam your cake. Okay, I did not do this enough. Fuck, I hate baking, you know? It's gonna rise double, that's it. I'm putting the whole thing in. Okay, so just make sure that this gets in all your corners. But check that everything is all good here. And then into a 350 degree oven, anywhere between 20 and 30 minutes. Yeah, so just use a toothpick, and at the 20-minute point is when I would say you can start checking it. And you can just put that in. If it comes out clean, it's done. If it comes out with batter on it, obviously it's still raw. So yeah, we'll check on it in 20 minutes. Okay, I know I just made it seem like we were gonna check on the cake next, but I forgot we have to make the icing and the other garnishes. So classic cream cheese. I just brought this up to get up to room temperature for about an hour. And we're gonna make like a cream cheese mousse. I always opt for this method instead of the like cream cheese frosting. Like if you look at a cream cheese frosting recipe on Google, it's like mostly butter. And to be honest, I find those frostings are just like too rich. Like, you know when you have cake and you're like, it's too sweet? That's like a frosting. And I really don't like that. So I like this one because we incorporate a lot of air. And instead of it being just like rich and too sweet, it's like light and refreshing. I'm gonna season this with vanilla. And then while I have the vanilla out, I may as well just put it over here for what's gonna be our whipped cream. Some confectioner sugar. And the reason you use icing sugar is just because it's ground so fine that it dissolves. Like granulated sugar, you need to boil to dissolve it. So this just dissolves a little bit easier, so it's great for making icings because you don't have to heat it to dissolve it. It'll just incorporate in. So I'm just gonna sweeten this a bit, maybe a tablespoon of that in there. And I'm also gonna do a tablespoon in our whipped cream. And we can adjust this after we get both components done if we feel like it needs to be sweeter. No biggie, easy to add sugar. So this I'm just gonna cream. I just want it to be like aerated, and like right now it's very cheesy and it would be hard to work into a whipped cream. It wouldn't actually blend. So if we aerate it a little bit, we'll be able to mix it with our cream. Done. Now we're gonna add about the same. I always aim for about the same amount, so I'm not sure how much that was. I don't know, maybe a cup or something. And now I'm just gonna transfer, I'm gonna whip cream. Also, like if you're trying to get into baking, I think it's a common misconception that you need a stand mixer. Stand mixer's like $300, you don't. You need one, like one of these almost does every job. And thankfully Kimberly had one, but I was looking at one to like buy at a thrift store just to film this video. And there's like 20 of these at every thrift store for like $5 to $7. So it's not a big investment if you wanna like start baking. You do not need a stand mixer. My lips are just so wet. The only thing you really need a stand mixer for is like breads and stuff. And even then you can do bread by hand, so. Ooh, that's good. Or when you're like whipping cream, you're supposed to get it to like a stiff peak. Before it gets too stiff, I wanna finish the whipping, incorporating the cheese, and then I'll get it really, really stiff together. So I'll just take a spatula that doesn't have cake batter on it. Okay, so I'm just gonna spatula this in. And it should incorporate really nicely now that it's got some air in it as well. This is my favorite like version of a cream cheese frosting. It's just so much like, it's not like jarringly sweet and has that like, sometimes when you have cream cheese frosting, it like not sticks on your teeth, but it like leaves that sugary residue on your teeth, and I just hate that. Like I love this like moussey, really soft, subtle texture. Here we go. Texture looks pretty good. I could honestly whip it a little bit more, and I probably will. But before I do that, I just want to check seasoning, sweetness. I maybe want a little bit more sweetness. Tablespoon of confectioner sugar. If you've made it like too sweet, a great thing to do when you make something too sweet, use some citrus. Acidity will balance something that's too sweet. If you ever go too far with sugar and like a frosting or anything, some lemon zest or some lemon juice would work great. Make sure this is good. Perfect. Tastes like cream cheese, it's super airy and really light. And I think you can use more frosting this way. So I'm gonna put this in the fridge. Making the cream cheese mousse this way is not super stable. So I would say like if you're making this ahead of time, like it needs to sit for a couple of days, either wait and do it that day, or you're gonna need to add a stabilizer, like some agar or some gelatin or something like that. And if like you really wanna do that and save time, just Google a cream cheese mousse recipe and use a different one. It will stay whipped for basically a day. Pop this in the fridge and then we'll make our berry topping. You thought we were done, hey? So I have some fresh blackberries, and I'm just gonna cut these in half so that they are exposed so they can macerate properly. I just need for that sugar to be able to get in there. I like blackberries. Obviously, feel free to use any berry you like. So just take like a little bowl, and you can just put all your berries in there, and all you're gonna do is take a little bit more confectioner sugar, get those on there. I'm gonna take one pinch, very small pinch of salt. If your berries are not tart, I would say add a little bit, just a tiny bit of lemon juice, but these are very tart, so I think that that will be perfect. And that salt will start to draw out some of the moisture, and everything will start to like break the cell walls of these berries down, and you'll end up with this like berry sauce kind of thing. And what I like about doing berries this way, preserve the freshness. You know, if you make a compote, I feel like you see that a lot on cheesecake. If you make a compote or a sauce, when you start cooking fruit, you really lose that like fresh edge, and it starts to taste like more like jam than it does like fresh fruit. It'll break the fruit down enough that you'll end up with a sauce. So yeah, let these hang out while our cake and everything finishes cooking. Should take about half an hour. Welcome back, the cake's done. You can see where my hole is, where I checked the cake. Again, just should come out clean. It's done. This is the hardest part about making cake. We're just gonna let it cool for 10 minutes.
You want to mention the other cake?
No, because it doesn't matter because it's not applicable, you know? Like, I was gonna say, like, if you're making 2 cakes and icing them in between, blah, 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 but we're not doing that. If you're watching this video, you're making it the way I want to make it. If you want to make it a different way, read someone's fucking bullshit blogs. Okay, guys, the cake's done, and it's been cooling for 10, 15 minutes. I know it seems like it was a lot of prep work with the parchment paper. Only reason I like to do it is because it is guaranteed. It takes a little bit of time at the beginning, but what's great is now I just literally lift my cake out. I did get a little fold mark there, so yeah, I know it's not perfect, but life's not perfect. Look how beautiful parchment is. You just peel it away. Memory card was full. You didn't miss much. I cut one little piece of cake. You can cut it into triangles if you want. I was gonna originally do that, but I decided to go rectangle. I cooled it for about 15 minutes, but I still do want it a little bit warm. I like the idea of warm cake, you know? So I'm just gonna put that on my plate. Just some warm water with a spoon in it so that my spoon is warm. And I'm gonna dry that and attempt to make a quenelle. I'm not really good at this. This is not my strong suit. Wow, half decent today. So we got our cream cheese mousse, and here's our berries. So they sat for about 45 minutes, and you can see they're like, they got that jammy consistency, but they still have that beautiful fresh tartness. I'm just gonna let these kind of fall over each side. Oh shit. That looks nice, right? Does that look okay? All right, there it is. Graham crumb cake, cream cheese mousse, macerated blackberries. Let's have a taste. I'm just gonna construct the perfect bite here. A little bit big of a bite, but you know, I just wanna make sure I get everything in the bite. Love eating on camera, it's the best. Wow, okay. First of all, it's amazing. Second of all, it doesn't, I think I'd expect it to taste more like graham cracker crust, but it doesn't maybe. But it's a really like moist, well-cooked cake. Oh shit, that is so good. Feels like cheesecake for sure. The like mousse is cheesy enough. The berries are perfectly tart. The cake's sweet, but not too sweet. It's like moist.
That's huge.
Shh, open up. Thoughts?
The graham is so good. And the cream cheese comes in after.
The more you eat it, it's just like crazier and crazier. Thinking about classic dishes like a cheesecake and trying to think about new ways to do it has always been really appealing to me in cooking. I think like that's the creative side where you're like, you have something that you love and think is amazing, and then you have the skill and know-how to like kind of navigate where you can like sub things out and kind of be creative and use the same ingredients. So that was a really fun one for me to do. We've been planning to do this video for a few weeks. This was a request video, so if you have any requests of things that you specifically want to see, or you want to see me like try and reinterpret something that you love, let me know. Leave it in the comments. If it's like a cool idea or if it's an idea I think I can work with, I'll gladly do it. If I don't like your idea, don't take it to heart. It's my channel. I'm gonna do whatever the fuck I want. If you don't like it, make your own YouTube cooking channel. I'm gonna do whatever recipes I think are cool. If you value these videos enough and you're like, how can I further my support? You can always go to my Ko-fi link, a way to directly support me, a good way to support content you're consuming for free. Either way, I'm gonna make these for free, so don't feel any pressure to donate, but if you do, that's awesome. I appreciate it. All right, see you guys in the next one. Thanks.